The Bible story of the prodigal son, also known as the parable of the lost son, follows immediately after the parable of the lost sheep and the lost coin. With these three parables, Jesus demonstrated what it means to be lost, how heaven celebrates with joy when the lost are found, and how the loving Father longs to save people. Jesus told the prodigal son story in response to the Pharisees' complaint. This man welcomes sinners and he eats with them. Luke chapter 15, verse 2. He wanted his followers to know why he chose to associate with sinners. The story begins with a man who has two sons. The younger son asks his father for his portion of the family estate as an early inheritance. Once received, the son promptly sets off a long journey to a distant land and begins to waste his fortune on while living. Typically, a son would receive his inheritance at the time of his father's death. The fact that the younger brother instigated the early division of the family estate showed a rebellious and proud disregard for his father's authority, not to mention a selfish and immature attitude. After going through the story of the prodigal son, a Sunday school teacher asked the kids, at the end of the story, who is it that ended up in the worst situation? One of the kids shoot up her hands and answered, the fatted calf. Yeah, the animal loving child was certainly correct. But the answer the teacher probably expected was the elder son. There are three main characters in the parable of the prodigal son: the father, the younger son, and the elder son. The younger son is a violent, impatient, easily bored, ready to try everything teenager. Pigs were unclean animals. Jews were not even allowed to touch pigs. When the son took a job feeding pigs, even longing for their food to filling his belly, it revealed that he had fallen as low as he could possibly go. He collects his inheritance, goes abroad to see the world, and squanders his birthright in loose living. He represents every sinner. In sin, we squander our human and divine birthright, and in the end, we are no better than in the beginning. Sin promises us a life of happiness, satisfaction, and excitement, but in the end, all we get out of it is misery, wretchedness, dissatisfaction, depression, and a loss of the sense of personal dignity that belongs to us as God's children. The good news is that no matter how deeply the sinner sinks into sin, there is always a still, silent inner voice within us inviting us to come back to a Father's house where true freedom and satisfaction is to be found. Then there is the Father who is so loving that he lets his rascally son have whatever he wanted. Here, God is presented as a tender, loving Father who is easy on his children, who is always ready to forgive no matter what. If this is how God relates to us, then we can see that God possesses the tender, loving quality of mother as well as the tough, loving quality of father. And finally, there is the elder son who is introduced towards the end of the story. If you want to describe the elder son by one word, you would call him a gentleman. He is a man of honor, solid, hardworking, consistent, disciplined, and sober. a perfect gentleman. If we see in the elder son the virtues of middle class morality, in him also we see its vices. What are the vices of middle class morality? Arrogance, better than thou attitude, intolerance toward those who do not meet up to our standards, insensitivity, and spirit of unforgiveness. The eldest son exhibits these vices in the way he refuses to welcome his lost and found brother. The parable of the prodigal son reminds us today that for God, love and compassion takes precedence before blind justice. Here, the primary virtue is love, compassion. As Christians, we believe in a God of love and compassion. Jesus was a man of love, of compassion, both in his teachings and in his dealings with others. The challenge for us Christians today is to be people of love and compassion, to be like the prodigal father in the parable and not like the uncompromising elder son in a